Hi, my name is Ava Jordan. I'm a student athlete at the University of Michigan. I'm a sophomore on the women's gymnastics team here. A big piece of advice that I received from one of my favorite coaches from club gymnastics during high school was to trust the process, that progress isn't linear. Ups and downs are going to happen. It's part of the experience, so you just have to let it happen and roll with it. A big thing that people don't think about enough when it comes to having hard training is like focusing on yourself. I think sometimes it's hard to compare yourself to other people that are doing the same sport as you. So really focus on what you're doing and your process and your progress. Everyone's different. So I think that was a big thing that I had to almost learn to do, was to focus on myself, take time for myself, and let things go the way they're supposed to go for me. A few challenges that I faced in my sport. One, the biggest one was probably injury. I think aches and pains are a given when you're a top prospect athlete, and learning to take the time to rest and recover and do what I needed to keep my body at its best to be able to perform at my best was a big learning curve for me. Another thing I think was practicing with intention. I think taking less turns that are quality and that really matter will also help with the recovery of my body versus taking a bunch of turns that maybe aren't as good and kind of put my body in a situation where I might not be able to perform at my best anymore. I was actually what people may call a late bloomer with my recruiting process. I started getting into emailing coaches and calling coaches a little bit later than other girls in the gymnastics world. So I started by reaching out to as many college coaches as I could through email, sending my social media usernames. I was sending videos of my gymnastics, just trying to get on their radar and kind of let them know that I'm here and that I'm doing the sport and I want to do it in college. And then from there, I started calling coaches and just talking to them on the phone, getting to hear a little bit about their university, getting to tell them a little bit about myself and what I'm interested in and what skills I'm working on. And then from there, I started taking visits like most other people do. I only did a few visits. Michigan was actually one of my first visits. So it was kind of hard going to Michigan first and falling in love with being here and then visiting other schools after that. But I was able to narrow it down eventually and chose Michigan. So yeah. During recruiting, a lot of people think they have to put on almost a facade and portray themselves as someone that they might not actually be. So I think a big thing is just to express your true self to the coaches, be who you are, talk to them as if you would normally talk to anybody else. Don't try to impress them necessarily, because what they're going to be impressed by is you being able to be comfortable being yourself around them. Why Michigan? Oh, that's such a big question. Michigan is just such a great place. There's so much opportunity here. There's so many people here. Everyone here is willing to help. Everyone is a resource. There's such a big alumni network. There's so many people to contact. I feel like there's just so much at Michigan that, like, when you compare it to other schools, it's so hard to turn down all the opportunities you could have here. I think a big thing that I did when choosing colleges, I made a pros and cons list for every school, and I took my sport out of the question. I took gymnastics out of it, and I made a pros and cons list for academics, career center stuff, mental health resources, all the things that don't involve sports, because at the end of the day, you want to go somewhere that will have your best interests at heart, despite the fact that you're an athlete. And I think that's what really made Michigan stand out to other schools, is the fact that if I wasn't a gymnast, I would still be very successful being at Michigan. I've learned a lot about what I'm thinking when I'm doing my skills. I feel like in high school, I kind of just, it was part of my daily routine. So I just went to the gym and did all of my skills, but I've gotten very good at being intentional and having mental cues and mental choreography for every turn that I take, every routine that I do, which has helped me really focus in on perfecting those routines. And I think that's been a big thing that I had to learn coming in as a freshman. It's definitely takes a lot of time management skills to be able to balance being a D1 athlete and also being at a school that's so high level academically. But one thing that I definitely do is rely on tutors. If I need extra help, I'm not afraid to ask for it. So I make sure to get those extra hours in with someone who may know the topic better than I do. I make sure to do some work before practice if I have an hour or two available. And definitely after practice is when I get the most of my work done, because we have until the time I go to bed from after practice to be able to get as much as I can done. A big thing that I would tell my younger self is to trust the process. There were a lot of days where I was very close to giving up or wanting to be done with what I was doing, and I think Part of the process is you're going to have days that are better than others, and you have to learn to stick it out and you have to recognize why you're doing what you're doing. And so, my biggest piece of advice would be finding your why at a young age so that every day you can remind yourself why you're doing the sport that you're doing and why you're putting yourself through all this hard work.